A billionaire father had billions, power, and control, until he saw a black waiter let his disabled daughter lead a single dance step. That tiny move shattered his empire and changed lives forever. You won't believe what happened next. Harrington's, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, fell silent in a heartbeat. It wasn't the kind of silence you hear. It was the kind you feel, heavy, suffocating, pressing down on every table. Laughter choked off. Silverware froze midair. Dozens of eyes swiveled toward a fragile girl standing on trembling legs. 9-year-old Emma Carter shook so violently that her braces clinked against each other. Her tiny hand extended, not toward her father, not toward another child, but toward Marcus Green, the restaurant's only black waiter. The piano had just whispered a haunting melody, and without thinking, Emma asked the impossible, "Dance with me." "Sir, control your daughter." Manager Collins's voice cracked like a whip. "This is a 5-star restaurant, not a circus. Employees are not here to amuse children." David Carter, one of the richest men in America, a man used to bending governments to his will, felt his throat close. For 2 years since the accident that crippled Emma, he had kept her hidden. Tonight, he was reminded why. "Emma, sit down." His words were low, sharp, final. But Marcus didn't move. His eyes shifted between the furious manager, the billionaire father, and the trembling girl whose hands still waited in the air. In 6 years at Harrington's, Marcus had mastered invisibility. Blend in. Don't get noticed. Don't cause waves. Especially not with men like Carter. But Emma's eyes, pleading, desperate, alive, cut straight through that armor. Slowly, deliberately, Marcus unknotted his apron. "Then I guess my shift ends here." Gasps rippled across the room. He laid the apron aside, turned back to Emma, and offered a smile that disarmed the tension. "Can't exactly dance in this, can I?" David shot to his feet, rage radiating from him. "What do you think you're doing?" Marcus met his glare head-on, answering an invitation. Before anyone could stop it, Emma dragged her braced foot forward, the metal screech echoing like a scream across the marble floor. But Marcus didn't grab her, didn't rush her. He matched her broken rhythm, step for step. "He'll regret this tomorrow," whispered a woman at a nearby table. Yet David didn't hear her. A memory struck him like lightning. Hannah, his late wife, twirling Emma through the living room. "Perfection doesn't matter," she had whispered once. "Connection does." Emma's face changed with every painful step. Fear turned into determination. Shame cracked into pride. For the first time in years, Emma wasn't being corrected, pitted, or controlled. She was leading. "Mr. Carter," Manager Collins cut in, sweating. "This will never happen again. I'll see to it personally." But David didn't move. The room froze with him. One word from this man could ruin Marcus forever. Staff held their breath. Diners leaned in, hungry for drama. But the only sound in David's ears was his daughter's shaky, radiant laugh. After 3 crooked steps, Marcus guided Emma back to her chair. "Thank you for trusting me," Marcus said with the formality of a knight to a queen. It was an honor. He turned to leave, but David's voice, hoarse, unfamiliar even to himself, stopped him cold. "Wait, your name?" "Marcus Green, sir." David repeated it, rolling it like a vow. Then, pulling a sleek card from his jacket, he extended it. "My office. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. The air in the restaurant broke like glass. Marcus accepted the card, his hand steady, though his pulse thundered. "Dad," Emma whispered, as Marcus walked away. "Why did you do that?" Her words sliced deeper than she knew. For the first time in years, David looked at his daughter as more than a shadow of tragedy. He saw a soul he'd ignored for far too long. Dinner limped forward in uneasy silence. But no one noticed Marcus glance back one last time. It wasn't fear. It wasn't defeat. It was quiet rebellion, burning against the storm in David Carter's eyes. And if this moment already has your heart racing, don't forget to subscribe. Because sometimes a single act of dignity ignites a revolution that nothing can stop. The following morning, Carter Tower gleamed under a rising sun, its marble lobby reflecting power in every polished stone. Marcus Green walked in wearing his best suit, old, stretched, but pressed crisp, his shoes shining though the leather cracked. Everyone around him looked like they belonged to another universe, draped in wealth worth more than his yearly rent. Marcus Green to see Mr. Carter, he told the receptionist, whose cool eyes scanned him like an intruder. One phone call later, she said, 18th floor. Miss Lang will escort you. In the elevator, Marcus clenched his worn satchel. Fear wasn't what gripped him, it was resolve. Miss Lang, sharp as steel in her 40s, waited with a smile that was all teeth and no warmth. Mr. Carter is in a call. Follow me. They walked down mirrored corridors, and every passing employee stared. A black waiter in these executive halls. Gossip would spread like wildfire. He had you fired, didn't he? Lang asked bluntly when they were alone. It happens. Powerful men snap fingers. People like you vanish. People like me? Marcus replied coolly. You know exactly what I mean, she sniffed, adjusting her glasses. Those who don't stay in their place. Marcus's lips curled in a thin smile. And where exactly is that? Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. He'll see you now. David Carter's office spanned half the skyscraper, windows swallowing the skyline whole. He stood with his back turned, surveying the city like it was his personal kingdom. Mr. Carter, Marcus said, voice steady. David turned, expression unreadable. Mr. Green, thank you for coming. Sit. The silence that followed was sharp, predatory, the kind designed to make weaker men break. Marcus recognized it instantly. He'd faced worse. Do you have a background? David asked suddenly. Excuse me. Education. Credentials. Marcus didn't blink. Bachelor's in kinesiology. Master's in adaptive physical therapy, unfinished. For a flicker, surprise cracked David's mask. And yet you serve tables? 3 jobs, actually. Restaurant nights. Deliveries on weekends. Tutoring kids when I can. David slid a folder across the desk. I looked into you. I had to know who had the audacity to dance with my daughter. He opened it, revealing photos of a community center. Freedom Steps. Founded 6 years ago. A dance program for disabled children. About to collapse from lack of funding. Marcus didn't flinch. He knew Carter's reach was limitless. I didn't come here to beg for money, Mr. Carter. David narrowed his eyes. Then why? Because you invited me. A dry laugh escaped the billionaire. Fair enough. He turned to the windows, restless, a storm bottled in human form. Then abruptly, I want you to work for me. Marcus froze, stunned. Work for you? As what? Another servant in your empire? David Carter's face hardened, the same expression that once terrified boardrooms into silence. Even saying his daughter's name seemed to weigh on him. Emma. The word left his lips reluctantly, like it had claws. Marcus caught the flicker in his eyes, a stolen glance at the framed photo on David's desk. A radiant woman twirling a baby girl in her arms. Hannah. Gone, but haunting every room he entered. I've hired the best specialists in the country, David said finally, voice clipped, as though emotion was weakness. Neurologists. Physical therapists. Psychologists. But what you did yesterday, his throat caught. He stopped, furious at himself for hesitating. It wasn't therapy. It was something else. He exhaled, it was just a dance. But it was the first time I've seen Emma smile since the accident. The admission sounded like it had been ripped out of him. I don't want another specialist for my daughter, David said, struggling to steady himself. I want someone who can do what you did. Let her lead. For the first time, Marcus saw it, the man beneath the empire. Not the billionaire who ruled from a glass tower, but a father terrified of losing his daughter to despair. I can pay you 5 times what you're making now, David said suddenly, desperate enough to throw money at a wound he couldn't heal. Marcus rose slowly, his calm voice slicing through the silence. No. The word hit David like a slap. David Carter wasn't a man who ever heard no. I don't work for people who see only my skin or my station before they see my worth, Marcus said firmly. And I don't work for fathers who think problems of the heart can be solved with a check. David's face burned red, fury barely restrained. You'd walk away from financial freedom out of pride? Not pride, Marcus corrected. Dignity. And because Emma deserves more than someone pretending to care because they're paid to. Marcus turned toward the door, but paused, voice softer now. Your daughter doesn't need more experts. She needs space to live on her own terms. You don't know my daughter, David shot back. No, Marcus admitted. But I know cages. And most of them aren't made of steel. From his pocket, Marcus placed a card on the desk. Freedom Steps. Classes Tuesdays and Thursdays, for PM. First class free. As Marcus left the office, He noticed Miss Lang lurking by the doorframe, clearly having overheard every word. Her eyes were wide with disbelief. "You just turned down David Carter. Are you insane?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Maybe, but better insane than own." The following week, Marcus stood behind the chipped reception desk at the community center when Zoe, Emma's aunt and Carter's sister-in-law, who had quietly co-founded the program, rushed in, nerves trembling in her voice. "There's a Bentley outside," she whispered, clutching her bag. "You won't believe who's in it." Through the grimy window, Marcus saw it. The sleek black car radiated wealth. In the back seat, Emma, fidgeting nervously with the braces on her legs. In the driver's seat, David Carter, hands gripping the wheel like he was at war with himself. "He won't come in," Zoe muttered. "Men like him don't set foot in places like this." Marcus's lips curved. Don't underestimate a daughter determined to live. The rear door opened. Emma climbed out carefully, her braces clinking, steps shaky but deliberate. And then, against every instinct, every rule of pride, David Carter stepped out too. His attempt at casual clothing looked awkward. Designer sweater, expensive slacks. Even stripped of his armor, the privilege clung to him like a second skin. "I told you he'd come," Marcus murmured. Zoe stared at him. "What did you do?" Marcus didn't answer. But deep inside, he carried a truth even Emma didn't yet know. Years of hidden notes, observations, and a mission born from one simple dance. David Carter thought he was here for his daughter. He didn't realize his empire of steel and glass was about to be shaken by something far more dangerous: hope. Freedom Steps wasn't glamorous. It was an old warehouse, its walls taped with hand-drawn posters. Your rhythm, your rules. Every move counts. Inside, children with prosthetics, wheelchairs, and crutches moved to the pulse of a gentle beat, each creating their own rhythm. David frowned, discomfort showing. "It looks chaotic." "There's structure," Marcus said quietly. "Just not the kind you recognize." He crouched down to Emma's level. "Want to join them?" Emma's eyes lit up, but she froze, waiting for her father's permission. David hesitated, then gave a curt nod. "Go. I'll be right here." Zoe pulled up a chair for him. "First day's always hardest," she said gently. "For parents, not kids." David's voice was sharp. "This isn't therapy. I've hired the best specialists money can buy." "And how's that worked for Emma?" Zoe asked softly. Before David could respond, the studio door opened. An older woman entered, leaning on a carved cane. Her gray hair was braided with dignity, her presence commanding the room. Zoe whispered, awestruck, "Dr. Elaine Mercer." David stiffened. He knew the name. A neuroscientist. Harvard. A pioneer in brain plasticity. "Mr. Carter," she greeted coolly. "You've rejected my proposals 3 times. David's brow furrowed. "Dr. Mercer? What are you doing here?" "I direct this program now," she explained. "We're studying how movement autonomy rewires neural pathways in children with motor challenges." "Research," David muttered. "I thought this was just a community dance class." Marcus rejoined, Emma now laughing with another child beside him. "Freedom Steps is a pilot rehabilitation model. Dance fused with neuroscience. Movement without correction." David's eyes narrowed. "Why are you waiting tables if you're leading a program like this?" "Because your world rejected us 3 times, Marcus said flatly. Recognition struck David like a thunderclap. His expression changed. You were Dr. Mercer's assistant on those proposals." "Co-author," Dr. Mercer corrected sharply. "Marcus Green may not have a gilded degree on his wall, but his theories are groundbreaking." David's voice dropped, low and dangerous. "You knew who I was." "At the restaurant." Marcus didn't flinch. "From the moment you walked in." When Emma Carter stepped to the center of the Freedom Steps studio, Marcus saw the moment he had been waiting for, an opportunity to let action speak louder than words. Was it staged? Absolutely not. Emma chose to move. Marcus chose to follow. Suddenly, a group of reporters entered, cameras clicking and flashes strobing. David Carter tensed, his perfect control faltering for the first time. "What's this?" he demanded, rigid with suspicion. "It's the second part of the plan," Marcus said calmly, a slight smile playing at his lips. Zoe, Emma's aunt and co-founder, handed David a freshly printed article. "Revolutionary motor rehabilitation method shows breakthrough results." "We published our first results today," Marcus explained quietly, watching David's jaw tighten. And we invited the press. David's eyes narrowed. You used my daughter for a public relations stunt. No, Marcus replied, steady. I saw an opportunity, and I let Emma take it. For months ago, when you canceled our meeting without reading the proposal, I promised myself I would find a way to show what she could do. Zoe interrupted, alarmed. Emma. They rushed back to the center of the studio. Emma, surrounded by the other children, had removed one of her braces and was balancing on just a single support. A hush fell over the room. Every reporter, every parent, even David himself, watched with bated breath. Wait, Marcus whispered to David. Just watch. Emma drew in a deep breath, focused, and then, one small, shaky, perfect step, entirely her own. The room erupted. Children cheered. Cameras flashed. David Carter, usually a fortress of composure, stared, unshed tears glinting in his eyes. That's why we created Freedom Steps, Marcus said softly. It's never about perfect steps. It's about the courage to take your first one on your own. David looked at his daughter, not as a patient, not as a problem, but as a person discovering her own strength. This could have been done without manipulating me, he said finally, voice low. It could have, Marcus answered, if you had answered our calls and read the proposals 3 times. The reporters noticed. Murmurs spread. Emma continued her steps, oblivious to the tension, her concentration pure and radiant. David Carter faced a choice he had never faced in his life of power and control. Withdraw, reinforcing his reputation as a cold, calculating billionaire, or embrace the moment Emma had created. For the first time, wealth could not dictate the next step. It was humility, courage, and trust that mattered now. A reporter approached, voice poised. Mr. Carter, could you comment on your presence at Freedom Steps today? Is it true your foundation rejected funding this program 3 times? David glanced at Emma, still practicing her new step, radiant and focused. Then, slowly, a rare smile spread across his face. You know what's hardest for someone in my position? He said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Admitting when you're wrong. A stunned silence filled the room. Then, David continued, announcing with calm authority. The Carter Foundation is committing to fully fund Freedom Steps for the next 5 years and to build a permanent rehabilitation center based on the methodology developed by Marcus Green and Dr. Elaine Mercer. Flashes exploded. Zoe cried out in surprise. David added, on one condition, Marcus retains complete autonomy over the program. No corporate interference. No shortcuts. Just what she and her team know works. 3 months later, bulldozers tore into the lot for the new Freedom Steps Rehabilitation Center. The facility was not a palace of luxury, but a space designed by and for the children themselves, every corner shaped by their input. Marcus oversaw construction daily, with Emma attending regularly, often bringing other children with her. And, to everyone's quiet astonishment, David Carter showed up as well, silent, observant, learning. I never thought I'd see you at board meetings, Marcus commented one afternoon. I never thought I'd have to study neuroplasticity at 50, David replied, rubbing his eyes as he reviewed detailed notes and post-it marked scientific articles. Emma requested her second brace be removed earlier than expected. I know, Marcus said, smiling. He told me. Doctors said it wouldn't be possible for 2 years, but you insisted. Because you were right, David added quietly, nodding. He gestured at a photo showing Emma balancing with only one crutch. She's progressing faster than any prediction. Why did you never accept my apology? Marcus asked softly. David exhaled. Because you never needed one. You redirected resources, changed policies, funded this program. That's not an apology, it's real change. 6 months later, the opening ceremony revealed a studio transformed. Children with mobility devices moved freely across adaptive spaces. In the center, Emma, now wearing only a lightweight brace, led a choreographed routine with other children, her steps confident and flowing, defying every prediction made by traditional medicine. David watched quietly, letting her lead. She doesn't need you to hold her anymore, Marcus whispered. No, David agreed. But she still needs me to be around. Crucial difference. Turning to Marcus, he said simply, thank you. For what? For teaching me to follow. A reporter approached. Mr. Carter, how does it feel to see Emma's progress? David looked at his daughter, now helping a younger child find her balance. Proud, he said, not of what she's overcome, but of what she's created for others. And the biggest lesson you've learned? David smiled at the cameras, a man once known only for his empire of wealth, now humbled by life. True leaders aren't those who dictate every step, but those with the courage to follow when someone shows a better way. 1 year later, Freedom Steps expanded to 3 cities. Marcus received the Pediatric Rehabilitation Innovation Award, his methods adopted in hospitals nationwide. Emma, now mostly brace-free, enrolled in regular school and became a youth ambassador, inspiring children to find their own pace. David Carter learned the hardest, most valuable lesson. True power is not in controlling every step, but in knowing when to step back and let others lead. A billionaire had followed a child's footsteps. A father had learned from his daughter. And the world, in small but profound ways, had shifted forever. If one tiny dance step could shake an empire and change a life, imagine what your first step could do. Comment below, what would you dare to do if no one was watching? And don't forget to subscribe to Black Nation Strength for more stories that inspire, shock, and prove that courage always wins.